Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, how are you?
And
Hi, Diane.
hi, Miriam. And let's see, welcome to our live viewers and welcome to our replay viewers. And hi, Pat. Hi, Pat. How are you? You're first one here in the live stream. Thanks for being here. So today is all about doodling and even the health benefits of doodling. I will be playing an excerpt from a podcast interview of an artist who specializes in mindful art practice. And later on, I'll be playing an excerpt from the interview where she describes more of the benefits and little activities you can do with 5 minute doodling and the benefits of even 5 minutes of doodling.
Mm,
And so I'm going to be using my mixed media paper art journal with my Tombow water soluble markers. I'm mostly going to use that.
perfect.
And then I might use some permanent markers too, because I might paint with water on top of my Tombow markers to create washes.
Oh, that's good.
So what are you doing, Miriam?
I've been playing with the gel plate today. So I have some backgrounds. I choose this one. It's in my art uh, journal. And I have all sorts of markers. Some are, uh, I think, all are permanent. I have other markers, but all that I have here uh, are permanent, and I have also a fountain pen, Faber Castell, that it's have permanent ink. So I'm going to start doodling, and let's see where that takes
Yes,
us.
I just traced my hand and drawing an eye. I'm going to draw an eye inside the hand, an eye inside the hand,
Oh,
a human eye inside the hand. So far, that's what I'm doing.
I am tracing something that I think I can see, like in the in this uh, page. Let's see what happens with it. So tell us something about the benefits.
Something about what?
The benefits of doodling.
Oh, well, maybe I could play. Maybe I could play the excerpt from the interview more than once today. Because
Okay.
right now we don't have any live. We only have one live viewer. Thank you to our replay viewers who are here, however.
Yes, here is
But I
Jennifer.
yes, I'll probably be playing the excerpt from this podcast interview more than once. So I have to get it now. It's going to take me a few minutes.
Okay. Hi Jennifer, how are you?
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, I'm well, says Jennifer. How are both of you? Well, very well.
Still getting it. Still bringing it up.
Okay. We are waiting for you. Don't worry.
Oh, God. So I'm sorry, I'm having a problem finding it. Just a minute. It's going to take me a few minutes.
Okay.
Oh.
In the meantime, I am going to tell the people what I am doing. I am trying to find a figure inside of this, and then I am going to doodle with that. I just got the Sharpie creative markers, and this will be a great time to try them out. Yes, Jennifer, I think so. I wanted to try them, but I asked my provider, like my local art provider, and they don't have them there. And to ask that to if I want online, I need to pay a lot on either on to send or like to buy other things to arrive to a certain amount. So I am waiting.
I can't locate it.
Okay. Do you remember something about it?
Mm,
Yes. Well,
I have to think about it. What I remember, I'm gonna have to think about it.
okay. What I know about doodling, it's somehow related to what you told about the mindfulness when it's very hard to me now to talk and to doodle because doodling is the thing that don't let me think. So I will try. One of the two things I'm not going to do well, maybe two of them, talk or doodle, but I will try. So doodling is somehow unexpected. You start to do something and you go through it and repeat the same phrase.
Okay, when you're ready, I can play this.
Okay, perfect.
So the name of this podcast, I have it linked down below in the description box. It's an interview, it's a podcast. I don't remember, it's called the Stress Nanny podcast, and I have it linked down below in the description box. And she's interviewing an artist that specializes in mindful art named Cynthia Hawk. And so the name of this interview is called But I'm Not an Artist. So that's the thing about doodling. You don't have to be an artist to doodle. So let's see what I'm going to play an excerpt from this interview.
Some sort of symbol as an anchor point. Okay. So that was super simple, which I love. Another one, which is really sweet, I think, to do with kiddos is what I like to call star breath or drawing the breath. And so this would be similar where we're tracing a shape and we're syncing up our breath with it. So you can just use your hand, or if you have a pen and paper, you can trace on the page as well. But so with a hand as an example, and with kids, you can always trace the hand and then have them color it afterwards, which can be really fun. But if we're using the hand as an example, I would start at the base of my thumb. And as I notice that my next inhalation is getting ready to begin, I would inhale as I move my first finger up my thumb towards the tip of the thumb. And then as I move down the thumb, I would exhale. And you would do that moving all the way throughout your hands. So up your first finger, inhaling, down your first finger, exhaling. And just doing that, those 5 breaths, essentially, I always find it really interesting what can shift in just that 5, those 5 breaths. But it can be really fun with kids if you're tracing their hand, because then they have a little bit of contact if you are using like a crayon or something, let's say with your child. And you can talk about the breath with them. You can have them choose colors and talk about different colors, and sometimes bring in emotions depending on their age. So those are ones that are really super simple, and you don't really need a lot of art supplies for them. There's others that the 7-year-old actually that I mentioned earlier, where he was having tantrums. So I had shared a practice which I created and I called meditative watercolor doodling. And it sounds complex, but it's still really simple. And you use watercolor paints largely because they very easily can blend with each other, and they dry pretty quickly. And you can get those really simple kits from the dollar store with watercolor paints, so it's really inexpensive. And so you can, usually what I'll do is I'll invite people to choose just a color they feel drawn to. So as an example, if I'm working with an adult, just mentioning to choose a color they feel drawn to in the moment. And maybe even then noticing a sensation in their body. Like right now I feel tension in my upper shoulders, and I might give that a color, and there's no right or wrong. But so for me, it feels like a dark burgundy color. So I would choose that along with the color that I just naturally felt really drawn to, and maybe allow them to mix on the page and just be curious and notice. But the part I love about this exercise is once the paint dries, which doesn't take very long, I then make the invitation to use a pen or a Sharpie marker and notice when watercolors dry, they leave really organic, fun shapes and where the colors mix together. And so you can almost like tracing, if we had tracing paper or connect the dots when we were younger, you can start to just be curious about the different shapes you see, and you can make your own image. So what I love about that is there's this sort of investigatory play that happens, but it's completely brand new. You're never going to have that same experience again if you do that exercise later. So the 7-year-old I mentioned, just quickly, I had shared that during an online retreat that I was doing mainly with women who, like me, are recovering perfectionists and find themselves really busy and sometimes stressed. And I was sharing it with women in this retreat. And a woman shared, this was right at the beginning of COVID, that her 7-year-old had been having a lot of tantrums. They tried a lot of different things. And she said that he saw her make this doodle, was really curious, asked her about it. And that she said he was so excited for the next week. She gave him supplies and he went up to his room and did his own practice. And how quickly she noticed for him specifically that he was having less tantrums, that he was focusing better, that he was just not as agitated, I think is one of the words that she used. And the part I love about what she shared with that is that he was so excited about it and that it was something he could do. He was excited to make it his own and to play with it. So that's a really fun one that I love sharing. I can go on and on. I have, you mentioned on the YouTube channel I have with Mindful Creative Muse, there's some videos, and then I have a free workbook that you can download that has more information also. But those are some of my favorites that are really simple, that engage a lot of different senses.
I love those. Thank you for sharing them. Mm-hmm. I think there's so much power in, like you said, the exploration with play, right? Like, and the choice and just the way that you approach it is so beautiful to me. And I'm grateful for the ways that you make the world a more mindful place in a fun and beautiful way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate what you do also.
Before we go, can I ask you 3 questions that I ask podcast guests? Mm-hmm. What is your favorite food?
I would say salmon.
Yum. What is your favorite way to relax?
So it changes, but with summer coming, one of my favorite activities is to cloud gaze. So laying on the grass, looking at the clouds, noticing different.
Okay, maybe, and also maybe I could play more of this excerpt from this interview, like a longer excerpt later. So that's interesting about how she works with the doodling, watercolor doodling helped with a 7-year-old kid that was having problems with tantrums. It helped relax him and calm him.
Yes, sometimes they use some kind of doodling in therapy because it's really make people to center in themselves.
Yeah.
So the mindful thing that we talked the last the other before, it's really interesting because
We don't have any live. We only have one live viewer. Sorry. Yeah, and you don't have to be an artist.
I have 3, but I don't know if I am picking yours.
No,
Because
I'm sorry. That
one.
the nice thing about doodling is you don't have to be an artist.
Oh, Liz is here. Hi, Liz. How are you, dear?
Hi, Liz.
We are doodling. Yes, of course.
Hi, Anthony.
Everything goes. Hi, Anthony. Everything goes. And it's all how you feel it, not only how you do it. Okay. I'm going to come back to it, but I want to do I tried coloring my stencil like you did your stamp yesterday. So what happened is, could you? I need to see it. Turned out so bad I had to paint over. Oh no. No. Do you want the next time, like that to be on Thursday, that I try to work a little bit with that? So I can understand what might happen, but I need to see it to be sure. But yeah, I am willing to do a part of the Thursday to do some working with the stencil.
Yeah, you're talking to somebody in your chat, right?
I am talking with Liz. That was a Sunday on my stream, and I use a stamp and color it, and she had the same stencil, not the stamp but the stencil.
Oh.
So she told me that she tried and not succeed. So I am offering to do it again to show her. I know, Liz, I have that problem all my life. I look, I I do things, most of them, relatively fast and easy for me. And I know that it's not the case every time. I have a problem teaching my kids how to study, for instance, for example, because I didn't study. I didn't need to study. I learned by absorption. So I didn't know how people do to study. It was really funny. So now I need to decide a color for the background. Let's start with gold.
Is anybody following along with us and doing their own doodling?
Yes, Jennifer is with the
Oh, nice.
Sharpie. Yes, she posts the pictures then after the print usually. And I admire that because playing alone, it's not so easy as it seems. Because you see what others do, and usually, especially in this thing about that is the doodling, you don't copy, you don't do what others do. So it's an influence that it's not easy to overcome. Maxi used to take my, well, not all of them, because I produce a lot, but some of the gel prints that I have for the Braille rocks, and he doodled on that.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I know. I know that you doodle too. They heard the screaming. That's okay, mommy. That's okay. Oh, shh. That's okay. I hope StreamYard is.
No,
Oh,
StreamYard doesn't cancel that.
no, don't cancel that.
No, they canceled when you use a dryer, but some they don't.
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
so
know.
sorry. So Jennifer is doodling on an old map. How interesting is that? Okay. That's it, baby. Baby, Maxito, ¿te puedes ocupar? Please. You know what happened one day? Shh. Shh. Oh, she's not the only one. Okay.
Do you have any perfectionism? Do you have any perfectionism?
What do you mean with that?
Do you
If I
do
am-
you do you struggle at all with perfectionism?
No, I embrace that. uh, no, no. I want my things to be pretty, and I'm really glad when they are.
But
But
if it doesn't turn out how you want, then
I'm moving on. I'm do it again. I
yeah.
whatever. Or I left that there like that because I know that it's not something that I can measure. Maybe I'm not pleased with that, but that doesn't mean that it's not okay.
Right. Yeah, that's a good attitude. Like right now, I colored this cloud blue, and now I wish I didn't.
Oh, well, convert it in another thing.
Oh well, it's only a doodle.
Of course. I'm very pleased because I could capture the figure that I could visualize on the abstract form. So when that happened, I am really pleased. That is something that I really enjoy all the time. To take one abstract thing, generally gel print, and see what I see on them.
Oh, yeah. That's
So that
similar to what she was talking about in the interview that we just played. We played an excerpt of an interview by an artist who's specializes in mindful art, where she talked about where you do watercolor, and then the watercolor leaves all kinds of shapes that you can trace, like organic shapes, or that you can trace
yes,
over, or you might see other shapes in
yes.
it. And she was talking about how doodling helps her, and she's noticed it helps her and others with perfectionism. It helps them with dealing with their own perfectionism, which the perfectionism can get in the way, can be
Oh,
can be harmful. Perfectionism can be harmful to creativity.
okay. Yes, of course. I think the same. I have different forms of like different markers that have metallic uh,
Oh,
color.
metallic.
Yes, it's so good. I am doing now like the figure is only black, and then I am using the colors of the metallic for the background.
Yeah, I like metallic, but it does not photograph well. If you try to photograph something you did metallic, oh,
You need to
it does not photograph
you
well.
need to find the correct inclination of the paper. Or sometimes you can not film it, video it. Okay, let's do something very savage.
I just made a mistake because of my vision. I don't like that is annoying
Well,
to me.
embrace it. It's not a mistake. Embrace it.
Yeah. Or don't let it I don't I mean the mistake is the curve of the rainbow didn't go right. But yeah, I could embrace it, or not worry about it too much.
Okay, so Liz, I'm set up at my craft table now. Oh, Liz, are you going to do the too? How wonderful. Ay, es imposible, no sé qué pasa. I don't know what happened.
That's what I like about acrylic painting. Acrylic painting, you can make mistakes and then paint over them.
Oh, yes.
Hi, Maxie.
Hi, Diane.
Hmm.
Hey, mommy.
Give it to me.
Wow, there's nobody in my chat. The people, they came, said hello, and laughed.
Oh, I cannot believe it. People are too busy.
Yeah.
Next week, we are going to be part of the Midsummer Streamathon at our usual uh, time.
Usual time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a streamathon here next week.
Yeah. It's the first one, so it will be fun. Maybe there will be slots with no people or no video. We are going to release the schedule, so you know. And yes, but it will be fun. Okay, let's see what I can do. Hmm. You know what? It's very strange, but I am going to change to color pencil. Let's put everything on hold here.
What were you? What kind of markers were you using before?
I've been using Posca
Oh, yeah.
I've been using liners. I've been using some Posterman Fig, water resistant after drying. Curat Curitate is the brand. Curitate.
I never heard of that. I've never heard of that.
Now here are very popular. No, what I did. I took my instead of the pencils, I took my marker, my alcohol marker. No, not today, people, not today. Today I want my pencils. Here, up here, it is Monday of long weekend. Oh, yes. Which holiday did you have, Liz? And where is up here? I don't remember, so
Well, I thought coloring in the blue cloud was a mistake, that I didn't like it. And if I had been painting in acrylics, I could have painted white over top, and I could still paint acrylic
you
over top
can
of it.
you
But
can see.
yes, I could paint acrylic over top of that. But instead, I painted, since I colored that cloud blue, I thought I came up with the idea of coloring the other one cloud yellow, I mean orange, and another cloud pink, and now they go together because they're all colored different colors. So I'm happy with how that turned out.
Perfect. You see?
Yeah, sometimes it works out like that. Or but if you're using acrylics, you can paint over top. Oh, sorry.
Okay. No, it's okay. She's telling me she's from Canada. I didn't remember that for release. And it's BC Day. BC. What is BC? BC.
Now I'm thinking what else to add to my doodle.
Oh. I am going with the coloring pencils now. So I am adding some dimension.
Oh, you're drawing a person, aren't you?
Yes, that's what I saw in the shadows in the
Oh, nice.
yes. British Columbia Day. Oh, Margaret is in British Columbia too. I know, I remember because she said all the time. She put that on the name even. Oh, British Columbia Day. Wow. And what do you do on that day traditionally? Enough. My neighbors are doing something out
And that the when your neighbors are outside, that's what makes your dog bark, right?
oh, you go camping? This perfect. I assume that you didn't. No, pero por eso esta puerta parece que sí. Juntate mucho. Quédate en la cama y quédate. I'm not say anything. I'm really bad in things. Oh, Lisa is here. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
How are you? I'm really bad in things that take time to show.
That
Like
take time to what?
show, like color pencil.
Ah, where I say, like you have to build up layers.
Yeah, I'm not built for that.
Okay.
I do it anyway because sometimes you need that specifically. It's something that you cannot achieve with something else, but I don't enjoy it. You know, I enjoy it when I take everything out, when I prepare, when I think about it, even when I can like foreseen it. But when I am doing it, uh, oh, I'm so glad. How was? Are you still out, or you came back? Good. Now I think it needs some more. Like, oh, yeah. I am trying to start to make a difference between light and shadows. So I thought it's better achieve that with pencil. And I am starting to now, but I need some. Where is it? Maxi, have you seen my? Who is that? Maxi, do you have el para sacar punta? I cannot find it anywhere. Never mind.
Hi, Charlene. Nice to
Hi,
see you.
oh, we are back from Niagara Falls. It was an amazing trip. Oh, my parents went to Niagara Falls when they were very young, and I left. I was left at home. I was really, really young, like 1 or 2 years old.
Nice to see you, Charlene.
I think I'm going to continue with this, but more. Let's try with this one.
Let me know when you want me to play excerpt from the interview again.
I think it's time.
Okay, I just meant
It's a podcast about doodling. Ahora pusieron en otro lugar para poner el mantel y después no lo volví a lugar. No sé. What can he say? This is the news.
okay, just a minute. Let's get it. And the interview, I mean, the podcast is linked down below in the description box. It's an interview with Cynthia Hawk, who is an artist specializing in mindful creative art.
We are ready.
Right, I'm bringing it up. Yes, hold on. The title of this interview is called "But I'm Not an Artist." But I'm not an artist.
Okay.
Oops, that's music.
Teacher trainings, and since 2007, she's facilitated an in-person and online courses, retreats, festivals, group coaching programs, teacher trainings, and telesummits globally. She's reached students in more than 49 countries. Cynthia, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Lindsay. I'm happy to be here.
I reached out to Cynthia when I saw her work because she obviously has a lot in common with what I do in terms of mindfulness, but her approach is so beautiful to me. And we talked a little bit about it offline, but Cynthia, talk to me about how art can really help us step into a place where we can let go of stress.
Absolutely. I love that question. So I find a lot of times when people get into a good flow state with art making, where they're in a place where they feel like time sort of stands still and they're doing something that they're working on that they feel really excited about, that there can be a natural way that we kind of step into a place of self-care and de-stressing. I think sometimes there's confusion around flow states and mindfulness, and they are different. And there are ways that we can be really intentional around incorporating mindfulness and meditation with art making that can be even more supportive for our self-care. The main thing that I love sharing is that really the focus is on the process and not the final product. We were chatting about this a little bit, but I think so often in the school system or when we're younger and we're learning art, it can be very grade based, like A through F, you're doing something right or wrong. It's very skill based. And so what I love about mindful art activities is that you don't have to be an artist. You don't have to have a certain level of skill. You're not being graded. You're not being performative in what you're creating. And that goes for both adults and your kiddos, whether you're a parent or a teacher. So it's really another way to engage your creativity without the pressure. And I think the pressure is what can feel stressful. And so, yeah, I love talking about this topic and ways that it's supported me and other kiddos and parents and teachers that I've known.
Yeah, and thanks so much for bringing that up, because I think that point is a really important one to make. Like the distinction between doing art for someone else or for a reason or for a grade, and then just doing art because it's fun or because you enjoy it or because you can just be really present and explore and curious, you know, with materials or media, whatever you're using, like you can just be there in that moment with the paint, with the clay, with whatever it is, and just really dive in and not let like your 5th grade art teacher or your 9th grade sculpting teacher, you know, be the voice in your head in those moments, right? You can learn to just let it be you and the material you're working with.
Yeah, I love that you named that too, because I noticed that working with different art materials automatically lends itself more so to mindfulness or being curious about what's happening right now in this moment. So one of the practices that I teach for kiddos and that parents and teachers can use with kiddos is many times when people were growing up, we've done like finger painting or straw breath painting, right? But both of those activities automatically engage more senses. So you might include the breath, you might have the texture of paint on your hands or feeling the page. And so it's really challenging, I think, at that point to not pay attention to your breath or the fact that you have paint on your hands. So it automatically, I like to think of it as like a container. It automatically holds you within a container that can sometimes make it easier to engage the senses, to notice what's happening right now, to have a form of meditation. And then once we interweave in that non-judgment, which is a really key piece of mindfulness, then I find it can be, you know, more playful or more at ease, or that curiosity can come in.
Yeah, I love that, the idea of a container. The word that was coming to mind for me was immersive. Like it really is, when it's sensory like that, it's immersive. Like you're in it and you don't want to get out of it, really. Like you're just kind of right there, all in. And I think what you just said too is really important, because sometimes we have a hard time understanding the idea of non-judgment. I think in terms of meditation or mindfulness, and listeners know that I talk about mindfulness meditation a lot on here, and how there are avenues to growth, avenues to resilience, you know, so many benefits.
No, I didn't read that.
Experience of learning how to be mindful and learning how to meditate, it can be a little bit hard to connect with. But when you do it in an experiential way, like in the ways that you teach, there is like a direct application to each action that you're taking, right, with the art, to living mindfully. Can you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, and I like to often refer to it as a practice also, because I think regardless of having the best of intentions, our mind, part of its job is to judge things and to be kind of on the lookout or have negativity bias. It's just the way that our brain is programmed to operate. And so I think that that's a really normal experience for us to feel like judgment is coming up when we're making art or just in general, and noticing that. So I like to mention it as a practice and name that, because especially for adults I work with who don't feel like they're creative or feel pressure or judgment when they're trying something new like this, is to normalize that and say, it's going to happen. Like at some point you are going to have judgmental thoughts, or maybe questioning, you know, is this quote unquote good enough? Am I doing it right? Those sorts of things. So I like to just name it first to kind of like have a more even space that we can all be curious together. And then that is part of the practice, I find, is that when those thoughts come in and you have those judgments, similar to the way I compare it, because I also teach meditation without art, and a lot of times with straight meditation or mindfulness practices that I'm teaching, one of the anchors I use is the breath. So one thing about noticing the breath is will be aware of maybe tightness in the chest, and then I'll notice I'm thinking about my to-do list, and then I'm thinking about a memory from 2 years ago, and I catch it like 5 thoughts down the line, and that happens the same way with mindfulness, meditation, and art activities together. You're just having another art media form in there that can help kind of contain your thoughts and contain your awareness and focus. But when that happens, when I catch those thoughts, or when I hear my students catch those thoughts, I get excited, because that's the practice. Like that's when we're doing the work, is when we're noticing that our thoughts are somewhere else, or that our thoughts are being judgmental. And really, it sounds really simple, and it's simple in theory and difficult in practice. The practice is then to just return back to the focal point you have, or the activity you're doing, to not be really hard on yourself, or especially if you're working with your children in the classroom or at home, to have that really encouraging environment and just return back to the activity that you're doing. And I think one other thing I'll just say is that with mindful art activities, the nice part is there can be this childlike play that's included. And I just find that so sweet, that it can help re-engage our awareness and senses in a way that feels maybe lighter or encouraging. Not always, but it's nice to have that.
Yeah, so many great points brought up. Let's start with the sensory experience and like that return to childlike play, because I think when we harken back to those years when either we were little or our kids were little, before we knew there were people who judged art, who graded art, who, when it was just really an experience of creation, that it was a different experience, right? And like you point out, when we engage with finger painting or any kind of process art where it is just like very hands-on and tactile, maybe there's smells and that there's such a like a harkening back to that sense of art just being play, right? And like you said, it's playing, and kids don't know any different. Like they don't know that it's performative, right? They just know it as play. And so as adults, when we can engage in those activities, or invite even our older kids to recommit to finger painting, or to have some sort of experience that feels a little bit maybe juvenile to them, but invites that full sensory experience, it can take us back to that place where we forgot, we forgot other people were looking. We weren't comparing, we were just playing. So I really love that. And then also with the recognition that in the thick of the creation, like that's where the practice is. And like you pointed out so beautifully, there's no difference between letting go of a thought about like this isn't good enough, to letting go of a thought in your day, your work day, your home life, like, oh, I don't have the same living room set up, or my house doesn't look good enough, or, my child isn't doing as well as, X, Y, Z. And like those are the same, it's the same practice, right? Whether we're doing it with art, whether we're doing it in our life, whether we're doing it in our meditation, like it's all the same practice. And so I love art being like a very natural bridge into that, because sometimes we can have a hard time even catching ourselves in the thought, like you said so beautifully, in our day-to-day life, in those 5 plus later, when we're like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be focusing on my breath, it can be hard sometimes to just maintain that focus on the breath. So if we can start somewhere like art, do you find that it's easier for people to engage with the process of mindfulness from there, because it's like a tactile, like focused activity that engages the mind enough and gives enough of like a space and container that then like the practice of letting go of some of those judgments, whether it's from someone else's opinion of our art, our own judgment of our art, our own judgment of our ability, is it easier almost to practice mindfulness in that space, because it is such a strong container where we can see like, oh, that thought, it's not helping me just engage in play right now.
Yeah, I do find that a lot of the people that I work with, adults, are the ones that have tried meditation in the past, but they say they can't, like, quote unquote, sit on a cushion, or it feels really painful or uncomfortable, or they just get really distracted. Or I've had parents that have come to me and have expressed that their 7-year-old has had a really hard time focusing, and they've tried different things. But a watercolor doodling practice that I have was one that he could just get really engaged in for like a week, and they noticed that he was calmer. So everybody, I think, has different preferences. But what I've found is that it's an easier way in. And there's lots of reasons for that, and there's things that support it. But one thing that first comes to mind for me is that sometimes just focusing on our breath or our body or our thoughts can feel like a lot, because we have a lot going on in our minds and in our bodies, and with different sensations, and sometimes it can feel, like a mile a minute. And so by having something outside of ourselves on the page that we can engage with, and we can play with these marks that perhaps are moving really slowly, and then noticing different senses in the body, it just narrows in that awareness. Because if we try to just turn inward, there can be a lot there. So I find that it simplifies. I'm really big. I chat a lot about simple activities and also 5-minute activities, and that we can do these practices in really small bursts to build up that muscle and that practice. The other thing I was going to say when I was hearing you chat about that, what came to mind for me is doing and exploring mindful art activities in nature as well. Perhaps collecting twigs or leaves and making a mandala shape, or even just doing a nature walk, perhaps with you and your kiddos, and talking about different smells or sights that you're seeing. That automatically adds another element, right? There's something else outside of ourselves, but there's this slowing down that can happen in nature as well. And I find there's even less pressure when we're in nature, because it's not a, paper, pen, and paintbrush in hand where we have these ideas about what art is. When we're in nature, sometimes that can be even easier for people to step into play and curiosity.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great point. I'm glad you brought up nature. And I love the idea of using art as a means to support focus. One of the things that I felt really strongly about when my daughter was little, she's 13 now, but when she was little, and I was looking at different preschools, I was trying to figure out, what my priorities were and what was important to me. And nature and concentration were both like high on my list. And one of the things that I really loved about the Montessori method that we connected with was the focus on concentration, and that like you teach kids to concentrate not by forcing them to concentrate, but by helping them figure out what they're interested in. And then when they find something that they want to engage with, they naturally practice concentrating because they want to, and so we're not like, please concentrate on this. We're saying like, here are a couple of activities, which one is appealing to you, and then like they automatically direct their attention. And so what you were saying about building focus using art activities resonates with me really deeply, because I watched her. She was like a map maker, so she loved making these maps, and she would paint them and outline them, and she would just go to town, and she would spend 45 minutes as a 3-year-old working on painting this map. And we have them still hanging in our house, and I loved like the repetition, because she would come home with like tons of these maps. I mean, she would just be like creating maps every day, and she loved it, and she just was engaged with it. And she loved the painting part and the writing part and the labeling. And one of the things they talk about with Montessori is like the key skill that your child needs to kind of cultivate at these ages is the ability to concentrate and like get it, move through a task, and that their intrinsic motivation is going to be the thing that drives them. And so with you, like with your YouTube channel, with your workbook, like there are different ways you invite people to that moment, right? Like invite people to concentrate on art, and like it doesn't have to be sit down and do this specific one, right? Like with your channel, it can be like, okay, here's some options. Which one looks fun to you? And then being able to engage with, like you said, for 5 minutes. And if we can help kids who have trouble focusing or who are feeling really out of sorts or dysregulated, if we can help them land in an activity for just a few minutes, it's so settling for the nervous system, right? And then if we can help them land in another activity the next day, or maybe a little longer, and another activity the next day, like over time, naturally, some of those things are just going to lengthen, like their ability to focus, right? Like you're saying, their ability to engage with something without getting super distracted. And it's because we've connected them with something that invites them to presence in a way they want to be present, right?
Yeah, I often refer to it as like an invitation that, or I sometimes refer to it actually as like a buffet of activities that you have all of these options and that you get to choose, right? And it might change from day to day what you're hungry for, what you want to explore and try. And yeah, I think a huge part for both adults and kids with mindful art activities is this permission to explore and play and not have that judgment, but that also we're the ones that get to make choices in our experience. And so I love the way that you were really talking about children and them engaging in something they're really interested in, and just by the nature of doing that as a practice over time, it can increase that focus. And just to geek out for a second, we know with mindfulness as well that mindfulness consistently with practice has been shown to increase gray matter. And that can help for adults and kiddos. It can help with memory. It can help with learning, self-awareness, even building up empathy. And so even if we're not focusing on those things intentionally, right, we're not trying to increase learning or empathy when we're doing that activity, it has that ripple out effect, which I just absolutely love.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think sometimes we consider solutions for our kids or for ourselves, for some things that maybe have plagued us, or tendencies that we have that have been with us for our whole lives, right? Like maybe it's a tendency toward perfectionism, or maybe it's a tendency for our kids to, not have a ton of focus. And I think we tend to look for solutions that are complex, or think it has to be really hard, or, think because this is a problem that's gone on a long time, it can't be a simple solution. But I loved what you're saying, like, what if it is, right? What if it is just an intentional, consistent choice to engage with mindful art? And what if that has so many just ripple effects for the brain and for relationships and for all the ways that kids, step out into the world? And what if that was all you needed? And I think sometimes we miss the boat on the simple solutions because we feel like, because it feels complex to us, the solution also has to be complex.
Yeah, and I just hearing you talk about that, it makes me think about all of the times when so often we're practicing mindfulness and art activities without even knowing it. It's part of our ritual in our families. Like I was remembering, just as you shared that, we would take road trips when I was younger with my family. And my sister and I, which I'm sure my parents loved this, we would make our own songs in the back seat. And we would have so much fun creating our own language and songs, and just being so absolutely immersed in that moment with each other. And there was anything we wanted to sing was fair game. There was no, like, it was almost like the improv comedy, yes, response. Anything we did in that moment was a yes. And I just think of that and other ways that we made, Christmas ornaments together with foam and ribbon and little pins. How so many of the activities that we do naturally in our families at times can also be mindful art activities. I think why this has become more prevalent is with everyone feeling so stressed and with everything happening the last couple of years. It's almost, I've really talked with a lot of people that are wanting more things to add into their like treasure chest of supportive, fun activities. And so it's just adding more things into your treasure chest. I'm sure a lot of people listening to this are already doing a lot of things that, would be really similar.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. The idea of recognizing, like,
There's still 15 minutes left in that podcast interview. Hi, David.
Very interesting.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Anina. How are you?
Hi, Anina.
Confusing. Hey, Diana, Miriam. Hi, Anina. Diane played for us an excerpt of a podcast about doodling and the benefits of doodling.
And it's linked down below. The credits for it is linked down below in my description box.
Okay. We are doodling today and talking about the benefits, which is weird because it's very difficult to doodle and talk,
Yeah.
but we try. Here is my first one. I finish it. It was part doodling, part discover what I see in an abstract paint or print in this case. So I saw this, and now I am doing the second one, and I'm trying the same to see what I am seeing and doodling at the same time.
So you're saying you're doodling what you see in the abstract shapes?
Something like that.
Uh-huh.
I am approach to it as a doodle, but it's ultimately what I see or what the not the form, the images in the abstract suggest me, like the shadows and the different tones. They form something in my eyes, at least, and I discovered that.
Oh, okay.
I understand your confusion, Anina, if you come to our uh, stream and hear a voice that it's not ours.
Yeah, we're changing things up. Listening to a podcast all about it's an interview with an artist who specializes in creative mindful art. Cynthia Hawk. Link down below. The podcast is linked down below my description box. So she talked a lot about perfectionism and how it's so pervasive in our society. So many people are perfectionistic.
Yeah, because doodling is more associated with the first stage of drawing in kids. The kids
The first stage of what?
of drawing in
Oh yes.
kids.
Uh-huh.
That's why it's not so, people don't take that in consideration so easily. But it's really like I heard about. I've been 40 years trying to studying to be an artist. No, 10 years studying to be an artist and 50 years trying to come back to my childhood.
Yeah. I've heard that before.
Well, thank you, Lisa. Lisa said that the podcast was a great addition to the stream.
Thank you.
I used to do things like I am about to do, really doodling without, if I want to do a face or half a face or whatever I am doing, I don't judge where to place.
Hello, Frugal Mama.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you, Davy. Davy says great doodling from both of you.
Oh, thank you, baby. You are so sweet. A flying one.
What was that?
Flying people.
Oh.
An strange dog.
Oh.
Yeah, I am really doodling. And I don't mind if everything is crooked, if I don't like it. I don't judge it.
Yeah, you're not a perfectionist.
No.
You that doesn't that's not a
Yeah,
problem for you. It
I
can
am, but no.
but you control, I guess you might be sometimes, but you know how to you know how not to let it control you.
Yeah, that's the thing. Let's see. Need to change to laptop. Don't see what Miriam is doing. Oh, yes, I know. It is a little bit uh, light right now, but it will be. It will be okay. Let me define things here, and I'll be doing some more. Let's do it now. Let's change to a postcard. Pam, pam, pam.
Well, not related to this topic. I was just wondering what's your favorite food, Miriam?
Oh,
Maybe you
I
don't have one, but
remember
maybe just one of your favorite foods.
I had a favorite food, but I cannot eat it anymore. Uh,
Oh.
it was potato.
Oh, potatoes.
I used to do potato in any way.
So, but what now? So, what is now your favorite food?
Mm, salad.
Oh, salad.
Yes.
What's your favorite salad dressing? Oh, you use vinaigrette probably.
No, I use lemon, salt, and that's it.
Wow.
Maybe a little bit of mayonnaise.
Right. Wow. I don't know. I don't have a favorite food. I might have several favorite foods. I can't. I
Oh,
have to think. What are they? What? Well, one of my favorite foods. This is not my all. This is not number one, but it's just among the favorites. Is um, I really like mashed potatoes if they're made right. Like they have the chunks of potatoes still left in the mashed potatoes. I love that.
oh, I used to, for comfort, not because it's better, I used to um, buy the potato that you prepared that came in a box.
Yeah, I love
Puree.
stuffing. I love stuffing that goes with turkey. That stuffing that I like that. Too. I love
Uh,
that too.
I never.
Herb stuffing made with herbs.
Uh-huh,
But I love desserts too. I love different kinds of desserts.
uh-huh. I don't. I do prefer salty, and I love both olives.
Yes, I love black olives and green olives.
Only green, in my case. But my food now it's so like one thing. And
Really?
what,
It's just like one thing.
yeah, you see.
But don't you get tired of it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
In the
good.
morning, hopefully in the morning, because sometimes it is in the
What
mid.
do you eat eggs for more? Do you eat eggs in the morning?
Yes,
Right.
with maximum me homemade. But it's eggs, and in between the eggs, the cheese.
Right.
And
I sometimes eat eggs. Most of the time I don't. I sometimes eat eggs in the morning. I love eggs though, yeah.
and I eat in the evening, like in the night, because we eat really
And you
not
eat keto, right? You're on a keto diet?
yes. So in the evening, it's salad, lettuce, and tomato, and burgers. And that's it. Sometimes in, it, instead of burgers with hot dogs or uh, kebab. But it's like a burger, but in a different way, more large and like a roll. But
What was
it's
the
a
last one you said? After hot dog, what did you say?
kebab.
Oh,
Kebab,
I didn't catch that.
no, kebab. It's a burger with the form of the chorizo, like a roll, a
Varias
mini
carnes
roll.
está hecha más.
Huh?
Kebab está hecho con varias carnes.
Yeah. The meat that they use change in the kebab.
Are you
It's
saying
more
kebab? Kebab, shish kebab?
shish kebab. It's almost the same, only made on the like barbecue and with skewer. In, like they
Don't forget
put
to give a thumbs up, everybody. Thumbs
skewer
up,
like.
please.
Oh, can you ask Diane what the black circle around the fingers are?
I don't
And
know. It's just doodling. It's just doodling.
doodling.
It's just like,
Doodling.
I don't know. It's doodling. It's
She's
just, it could be
doodling.
string. I guess it's like, it could represent string.
Uh-huh. I hope you can see now, Anila.
Wow. Are we ready? Do you want to listen to more of the interview?
Okay, I want.
Okay, we're going to play more of this interview with Cynthia Hawk, an artist who specializes in
Oh,
mindful creation.
Violet is here.
Did you say
Lis-
Violet?
Violet, see,
Hi,
yes.
Violet.
Lisa says, I think the doodles are the hand's vibration going out into the world. Oh, love it.
Oh,
You can play now.
okay.
Only I will tell you to Violet, we are doodling and what you are,
Listening to a podcast.
yes, it's a podcast.
Okay. And the title of the podcast is But I'm Not an Artist.
You're probably doing this in a lot of ways right now, and really just sinking into that realization, along with maybe supporting it or enhancing it in the ways that you can in your own space. Love that. Let's revisit that idea of nature, and then we'll get into some of the activities that you do, which are so fun. So in nature, you said that we just kind of naturally engage with art in a less judgmental way, right? Like we just get a little more playful or creative, or like gathering the sticks, or making a little cairn with the rocks, or just playing, and like flower crowns or little bouquets. What do you find is the biggest barrier for people to either A, just like engage with nature in general, or B, to engage with nature in an artistic way? Like one of the things coming to mind for me is like the pace. If we have an agenda when we're in nature, like we're gonna make it through this hike and we're gonna get from A to B, that can be fun and great, and it's good to have a goal and get some exercise, right? But if we're like shepherding our kids along the way when they want to like stop and collect the flowers, maybe we're missing some opportunities to just like invite and allow those moments that are just naturally occurring. You know, like if they were super concentrating on their little flower crown that they were weaving together, there's so much benefit in those moments, right? So what are some of the things you see besides like hustle and bustle that keep people from just taking advantage or just allowing maybe those moments?
I love that question. What comes to mind for me that I've heard in some of my conversations is habituation and pressure. And so I live in Colorado, beautiful, absolutely beautiful state. And I live in the city. So the mountains I get to see every day. But if I want to be in the mountains, I have to drive about 20 minutes, carve out space and time in my day, make a plan to get over there. And really drop in. And I have some closer parks and paths in a little foresty area that I really love going to that is much more accessible and easier. That's easier to build into my daily habit or routine. So I think that's part of it, is that we naturally are creatures of habit. So if we don't have the habit of going into nature, being in nature, and maybe we work from home remotely, or maybe we have a family at home that takes up a lot of our time and attention, and that feels like an extra chore or an extra hassle to get there. I think that can be part of it. The other thing that came to me when you were talking is that when I first moved back to Colorado, my nephew, who's now 12, he was 5 or 6, and he loved going to this park with my sister and I, Palmer Park in nature, and it's very rocky, and I loved going on walks with him because he was so curious, at 5 or 6 years old, that he wanted to stop literally every 3 steps, right? I know some people listening to this can relate to that, to look at a flower, or look at a rock, or pick up a really cool stick that he found, or like be curious about what was that noise behind that like brush over there. And so I loved our walks because it would take us 30 minutes, and we would go very short distance and then turn around. And the foresty park I mentioned actually here is connected to Catamount Institute. They work with kids, and they have signs up throughout the path that every couple hundred feet has a sign that shows different senses and invites you to notice birds or to smell or to hear something. And I just absolutely love that. And sometimes I wish that we could just have these signs randomly around in nature. So if we are in nature, but we're still in that like work mode or go, or I'm going to do this, but I'm doing it to get to A to Z, that we can just have those invitations to slow down. So your other question around perhaps why is art not automatically threaded into nature practices? I think there's a lot of reasons for that. But again, what comes to mind is a lot of times we think of art as paintings, drawing, photographs. So sometimes people use their cell phones and photograph more in nature. But art and creativity can also be gardening. It can also be cooking. It can also be these things that engage different senses and creativity where we're exploring something new. And so in nature, a lot of times I have the invitation of creating a mandala. Mandala just means circle. And so collecting different objects and creating that together with other people in a circle in nature. And you might take a photograph of it, but also we're letting it go. So it's not precious, because I think sometimes we can have A with a cap or art with a capital A, and it can feel very precious, which is also where some of that pressure comes from. So there's different ways that you can explore art in nature, but I think it's just not, if it's not part of your practice or habit, I think it just doesn't come to mind a lot for people.
Yeah, oh, that's such a great observation. And I really love what you were saying about your nephew and the signs. That's just fun. Like, we should have those signs. Like, do you hear the birds right now?
They're helpful reminders.
Yeah, well, and I think you bring up a good point there too. And it's something we've talked about a little bit on the podcast before, but like, kids are mindfulness pros, mindfulness pros, because their whole job is sensory development, right? Especially when they're little. And a lot of times we kind of like educate or culture the mindfulness out of them, right? Like, we hustle them along and we make our to-do lists impossible. And, you know, we force ourselves into a pace that maybe doesn't respect. And I say this with all the like respect and love for what, like, the busyness that is motherhood anyway, right? No judgment. But I think sometimes we don't respect like the education they can offer us around mindfulness. And I love like your example of just wandering with him in a way that respected his curiosity, and how those precious moments, if we can habituate that, like, they'll take us right to nature, right? Because that's the space where they love to be, or they'll take us right to a space of process art that is just fun and playful. And so if we take their lead in those moments, I think the invitation is stronger than maybe if we, you know, try to do it the other way around and invite little kids to be mindful.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Talk to me about some of the activities that you share, because you have so many fun ones, and they're, again, like a range, right? So it's like you can take a lot of time with it, you can take a little bit of time with it, you could do a material that you have to kind of go procure, you can use something you have at home. So you have so many, again, like on your channel, you have your workbook and your website, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, but give us a sampling of some of the ways people can invite themselves to those mindful art moments.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll share a couple of really quick things that you don't even necessarily need any art supplies or materials to do them and experiment with them. And then I'll share some that where you can play with more materials. So I really love the idea. We were talking about it a little bit with nature, but I love the idea of how we can incorporate mindful moments throughout our day. And so one practice that I teach, which is an infinity breath. So many people are familiar with an infinity symbol. If not, it's basically like two circles that connect in the middle, or it looks like a figure 8 symbol. And so the infinity 8 breath, there's a couple of different ways. One, if you don't have even a pen and paper with you, what I like is that you can just make that figure 8 symbol on your hand, on your leg. It's great if you're like in a work meeting or a school board meeting or something, and you're just wanting something to feel a little more present and calm in the moment. You can make that shape on, so you have a couple of things happening. You feel that textile contact with your skin or with your, you know, fabric, and then you also can breathe with it. So as you're coming on the up part of the loop, you would inhale, and as you're moving down, you would exhale. And that's something you can do with or without a pen. And so that clearly we're not making quote unquote art with a capital A there, but what we are doing is we're combining mindfulness, breath, and imagery or some sort of symbol as an anchor point. So that one's super simple, which I love. Another one, which is really sweet, I think, to do with kiddos, is what I like to call star breath, or drawing the breath. And so this would be similar, where we're tracing a shape and we're syncing up our breath with it. So you can just use your hand, or if you have a pen and paper, you can trace on the page as well. But so with a hand as an example, and with kids, you can always trace the hand and then have them color it afterwards, which can be really fun. But if we're using the hand as an example, I would start at the base of my thumb. And as I notice that my next inhalation is getting ready to begin, I would inhale as I move my first finger up my thumb towards the tip of the thumb. And then as I move down the thumb, I would exhale. And you would do that moving all the way throughout your hand. So up your first finger, inhaling, down your first finger, exhaling. And just doing that, those 5 breaths, essentially. I always find it really interesting what can shift in just that, those 5 breaths. But it can be really fun with kids if you're tracing their hand, because then they have a little bit of contact if you are using like a crayon or something, let's say with your child. And you can talk about the breath with them. You can have them choose colors, talk about different colors, and sometimes bring emotions depending on their age. So those are ones that are really super simple, and you don't really need a lot of art supplies for them. There's others that the 7-year-old actually that I mentioned earlier, where he was having tantrums. So I had shared a practice which I created and I called meditative watercolor doodling. And it sounds complex, but it's still really simple. And you use watercolor paints largely because they very easily can blend with each other and dry pretty quickly. And you can get those really simple kits from the dollar store with watercolor paints, so it's really inexpensive. And so you can, usually what I'll do is invite people to choose just a color they feel drawn to. So as an example, if I'm working with an adult, just mentioning to choose the color they feel drawn to in the moment. And maybe even then noticing a sensation in their body. Like right now I feel tension in my upper shoulders, and I might give that a color, and there's no right or wrong. But so for me, it feels like a dark burgundy color. So I would choose that along with the color that I just naturally felt really drawn to, and maybe allow them to mix on the page and just be curious and notice. But the part I love about this exercise is once the paint dries, which doesn't take very long, I then make the invitation to use a pen or a Sharpie marker and notice when watercolors dry, they leave really organic, fun shapes and where the colors mix together. And so you can almost like tracing, if we had tracing paper or connect the dots when we were younger, you can start to just be curious about the different shapes you see, and you can make your own image. So what I love about that is there's this sort of investigatory play that happens, but it's completely brand new. You're never going to have that same experience again if you do that exercise later. So the 7-year-old I mentioned, just quickly, I had shared that during an online retreat that I was doing mainly with women who, like me, are recovering perfectionists and find themselves really busy and sometimes stressed. And I was sharing it with women in this retreat. And a woman shared, this was right at the beginning of COVID, that her 7-year-old had been having a lot of tantrums. They tried a lot of different things. And she said that he saw her make this doodle, was really curious, asked her about it. And that she said he was so excited for the next week. She gave him supplies and he went up to his room and did his own practice. And how quickly she noticed for him specifically that he was having less tantrums, that he was focusing better, that he was just not as agitated, I think is one of the words that she used. And the part I love about what she shared with that is that he was so excited about it and that it was something he could do. He was excited to make it his own and to play with it. So that's a really fun one that I love sharing. I can go on and on. I have, you mentioned on the YouTube channel I have with Mindful Creative Muse, there's some videos, and then I have a free workbook that you can download that has more information also.
Okay, so that interview is just about over in a couple minutes.
Okay. How are you with the exercise? How did you feel doing this on a stream?
How what?
How did you feel with this exercise
How do I feel about doodling? Like doodling, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Oh, yeah. I'm kind of uncomfortable with it because with the product. I'm uncomfortable with the product, like showing it on a live stream actually, like because it's basic. It's so basic. Like I'm just like I can't really do something more sophisticated from my head. I have to always use references and stuff. So when it's just coming from my imagination, it's pretty just basic.
Oh, I see.
It's kind of like I'm using basic. Look, I'm just using tons of rainbow colors instead of more sophisticated colors, and it's not like I can draw like these great things from my imagination and like make it all sophisticated and artistic looking. I can't do that for my imagination too much. I usually have to start with references and have reference photos to draw from.
Mm-hmm.
So showing such basic art is kind of uncomfortable for me.
I see. Anyway, you know that it's basic from the start. It's not that we expect a work of art and you didn't deliver.
Yeah. Right.
I'm very comfortable with it. It's right on my alley.
Oh.
It's what I used to do for fun.
Yes. When I work on it's kind of fun for me to work on my regular artwork. I find that it it engages me and I get absorbed and the time goes by and I get challenged. I have like it challenges me. Like this challenges me in a different way. But my artwork, that my serious artwork, it challenges me and it engages me and I enjoy creating that. I mean, so I this one and kind of engages me less. It kind of engages because the challenge is, I don't know. So there's the challenge to create from your imagination. Like there's that challenge. That's a different kind of challenge for me. Which
Yes.
I do have to create from my imagination, but but like with colors and stuff, I actually have to be creative about how I use my colors in my own art, my serious artwork. So I still have to work for my imagination some, but it's in a different, completely from my imagination, like where I start from the beginning, just completely from my imagination is kind of, it's uncomfortable for me.
Mm-hmm. I see. I think that the best work I do is when I don't uh, try to do something special. When things happen,
Yeah.
like cities, I couldn't been imagine something as crazy as that.
Oh, I see what you mean.
And I am really pleased with it.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that's a dog. Is that a dog or a cat?
A dog or a cat or a
Yeah,
dragon
it
or
doesn't
a
matter, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter.
no, it have antlers, fox tail.
I see.
What can I say? It's not even a dog, not even anything.
Yeah,
But
an
I am lost.
imaginary animal.
And this is a person that is flying and it have it's an escalator here that goes to another person that have the hands on the head and it's bigger than anyone. So yes, this is my mind. Sorry.
And then is that a crescent moon behind behind that person?
Yes, it is. and I sign it because it's done.
Ah.
And this person have all the face with strings on it. Um, I'm having fun.
I can't flow. No,
What?
I can't flow. Here.
Why?
Now, yes.
Oh,
No, que estoy se había quedado ahí, no tengo.
okay. ¿Viste? Y el otro. Two different style to the same doodling.
And I have a question for the chat. How do you guys like doodling when you doodle in the chat? What?
How we doodle?
How? My question to the chat is, how easy is it for you to work
yes.
completely from your imagination,
Uh,
from start to finish?
I have two things from the chat. One is Lisa that said, Diane, I can see simple spiral circles would add some interesting energy. And she came and said, hello, Miriam, Diane.
Davey said he loves doodling.
Oh.
Oh yeah, Davey's really good working from his imagination. He can create wonderful things from he creates so many different kinds of creatures from his imagination.
Oh, yeah. Kim said, it varies for me depending on what I am doing. Interesting. Violet said, I love to doodle. I let my lines and colors find their own way usually. Mostly abstract doodles. I do love to doodle unrealistic flowers though. Oh, I do too, Violet. I did something different in this one. Two different doodling. In this one, I tried to see what I saw on the abstract, and I saw this exactly. So I doodle inside of that. And this one was more do whatever and see what happens.
So Davey says he doesn't think about it too much and just lets the pen run around the paper. And
Wow.
Greg says he needs some kind of reference. So he's along the same lines as
It's
me.
like you.
He likes to have some kind of reference.
Yes, Lisa says, I find it easy to doodle. I especially enjoy doodling when I see something in the print, like I did in my first one, Lisa. Yes, that's why I did another exercise, and it was very interesting. It was like that. Let's do it. Let me find some page, some sheet of paper, because I need a sheet of paper for that. I can do it on my journal. Maxi, do you have a sheet of paper, please? Honey. Maxi. I need a paper. Well, I am going to grab some cardstock, some thin cardstock, because I cannot find regular paper in this house.
I like doodling best when nobody's looking at what I'm doing, and I'm like doing like you said, you can't doodle when you talk. A lot of times I used to doodle when I was talking on the phone. So talking on the phone,
yes.
I like that kind of doodling, and nobody's going to look at it. But I really like doing it, and nobody's going to look at it.
Violet says, I like to drop different color watercolors on a postcard size paper and then doodle around the shape that form. That was in the podcast. I saw this. Why I was looking for a sheet of paper to ruin it? Yes, you see, I am ruining it, but it's not all ruined. Let's see what I can do with that. So you open it, and then first you follow the lines that are on the page, whatever lines you want to follow. Roughly, you don't need to do. The lines are your reference.
I see. The lines become your jumping off point and kind of your
Yes,
reference.
and you do whatever lines you want to do. So sometimes you see a line here, but you didn't want to do it. And when you finish, you start to coloring. You can add lines if you need to separate like this, separate forms. I am going to do it with a wider marker so you can see better. So I did some lines that I see on the paper. I am not inventing. I can do something like continue one line or whatever, but this is my, and when I finish with all the paper, you can do it with a little paper. You can come back with colors and say, you are going to do, if I do here one color, I am not going, the only rule is don't put one color beside the other. So you are going to use as much colors as you need in order for them to not be beside the other. And at the end, it's a really interesting exercise, and it's doodling and coloring. So the method that Violet said, like with watercolor, it's perfect. Or in a print, you can do a print like that, and you find that it's a line here with like fingers. So maybe it's a hand that goes through a hoop. I don't know. I can do it all day and see what happens. I have here my hoop. I have here my hand. And it not don't need to be something really. For instance, I made a mistake here, so I am doing lines, and that's it. No mistake. So yeah, thank you, Violet. She says exactly me. And bye, Anina. Thank you for hanging.
Bye, Anina. Thank you for visiting.
Well, I am going to show you my two drawings again because we have 10 minutes. This is the first one, and I am going to post it. I love the hairband. I love it all. I really, I could frame it. I don't know why. And this one, the wacky one.
Yeah, yours turned out good.
I
Very,
love.
yeah, very creative.
Yours are good too.
Oh, thank you.
Very complicated. A lot of symbols.
Yeah.
How many eyes do you have there?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Uh-huh.
I did 2 pages today. This is one of the pages, so I did 2 pages.
Yes. I want to see the other one.
Oh, yeah, okay. Here's the other one.
Wow. Pretty, pretty. If you doodle along, please put a picture and tag us so we can enjoy it too.
Yeah, you could tag us on Facebook.
Yes.
On Facebook, I'm Serenity Art, just Serenity Art. Because Facebook wouldn't let me. I would have wanted to be Serenity Studio Art, but Facebook wouldn't let me. I could only be They only allowed me to be Serenity Art.
I wanted to be Artcurious, and YouTube didn't let me, so I needed to add.
You mean Facebook didn't let you?
No. Facebook, I am with my name.
Oh,
Thank you. Thank you, Violet.
Thank you, Violet.
So when I try to put it was really my channel was in my name. It started like that. And then YouTube put a post about the handler. They changed the way they use the handler. So it was our opportunity to change it. And I said to myself, okay, if I want to do something more serious like a channel, really channel, and stream and everything, I need a name. I wanted Artcurious, but the name was taken, so I needed to put by MNW.
Oh,
Yeah. But in Facebook, I am with my name and surname, and in the other one, completely gone from my mind. Instagram. In Instagram, I with my 3 names: my name, my middle name, and my surname. So it's funny, but it's that how it is because I had both Facebook and Instagram before I became a streamer. I had a very good time today with the people in the chat and with you, Diane, and with the doodling itself.
yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I enjoyed listening to the interview.
Oh, yes, the interview was very, very good. So I think we can say goodbye.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much for visiting, everybody.
Thank you so much. We enjoy with you. I hope you enjoy with us. Thank you, Diane. Thank you, Diane Scott.
Oh, thank you, Miriam.
You're welcome. We are not in sync.
Oh, okay.
Never mind. There.
Now we are.
Violet, we steal it from you, but we cannot do the half one. Hugs to you all, said Lisa. Have a great day, said Violet. Kim says, thank you, ladies. Please, very cool. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Bye, everyone. And next week we're going to be a part of a streamathon during our time. 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be part of a streamathon, an artsy streamathon.
Yes. we are going to. Okay.